Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, Sonic. I hope you are doing well today. Let me get the Skyrim music turned off. I hope you are doing well. As for me, today has been kind of stressful, just going through some, how do I want to put this? Some annoying wild goose chases that I've had to go through in order to fix something in one of the insurance things that I pay for. So that was fun. For anyone out there, if anyone in the audience is related to the health insurance industry or has had experiences, dealing with them, you have my sympathies because they suck. They absolutely suck. So, but today, let me read Sonic. Doing fine. Been playing Chaos Legion on PS2 via PS3, 60 gigabytes back compatible mode. Nice, nice, nice. As far as what I've been playing, I recently picked up Hades 2 because it finally came to PlayStation. And I'm glad I waited this long for it because they added another quality of life patch to it when they dropped it on Xbox and um PS5. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad I've waited this long because I was always tempted to pick it up because I really like Supergiant Games. I've liked all their games, and I was looking forward to playing Hades 2 for a while now. But I'm glad I waited until this point so they could finally get what I assume is the final big quality of life patch they're gonna do for it, unless they decide to do another one before they move on to their next project. But yeah, I've been really enjoying Hades 2. I think it's Supergiant for me just has that big standard of quality, and this is just another one that's like, yep, this is a Supergiant game. And is even compared to the first Hades, it is damn impressive what kind of permutations you can get with the various bits of dialogue from certain characters, depending on what you do, depending on what kind of powers you have activated, or what kind of animal companions you have. And it's just, I can't even imagine how deep the rabbit hole goes for the amount of dialogue that Supergiant have recorded for this game and continue to add into the game. It's quite something. I know Supergiant is top tier when it comes to this kind of stuff, from things like Bastion and Pyre and the first Hades as well. But this, I feel like they have just taken it to another level with Hades too. Hey, Red Riot Robot. Hey, at work, so lurking, saw bad news about Negoshi Studio YouTube being removed. Oh, wait, what? Really? Hold on. Ah, fuck. Really? Oh, seems like the YouTube channel and Gang of Dragon trailer is now gone. Damn. Give me a sec to. I know I've had like a long time to process that, like the inevitable death of Gang of Dragon and Negoshi Studio, but just damn. Well, uh, hopefully Negoshi can land on his feet. I hope he's given another chance with a company that is less shitty than NetEase is, but maybe RGG will take him back. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't think he would want to go back. But damn. So Sonic Stray is getting Switch 2. Just hope it's free Switch 2 edition upgrade patch. I'm pretty sure it will be. I don't see why Blue 12 would pull a stunt like that and make you buy Stray again, even if it's for like a $5 or $10 upgrade fee. I just don't see them as that kind of studio to be doing something like that. They're not Bungie. And speaking of Bungie, today is going to be the day that I talk about Marathon, which is the latest game from Bungie. Now, before I get into everything, because I feel like I have been patiently waiting to do this live stream, and I have talked about doing something like this for months, and I feel like I have patiently been waiting, like I said, because I don't know about y'all or people that have been paying attention to Marathon, but it's almost like I've been waiting for kind of I guess the story or the thing that's going to bring Marathon back. And I feel like I have been giving it multiple chances, or just patiently waiting, sitting on the sidelines and just kind of observing and seeing if there is something that Bungie is going to do that will bring this game's numbers up or really dramatically change community sentiment around it. But I feel like after a month and a half, almost 2 months of this game being out, I'm just not seeing it, and I feel like I feel like now is the time to pull the trigger on doing something like this, because Bungie had their big mid-season balance patch that dropped last week that was, it had a lot of good changes in it, and it got a lot of very positive feedback from the community. It is currently on sale right now. It's been on sale for, I think, a couple days now on all the platforms it's available on for 20% off. So if you were on the fence on buying Marathon, then it's 20% off right now for almost like a little bit over $30 if you're interested. And it just doesn't seem like anything right now, at least in the short term, is changing the trajectory of this game, and is just progressively getting worse and worse and worse and worse with each week that passes. And to me, it's kind of like, I don't really want to wait until people are kind of, I've seen some people kind of holding off on really talking more about this game until Sony does their big fiscal year presentation next month. But in my opinion, I feel like it's not really like, I don't know, like, what is that going to change exactly? Because I can't really see, despite Marathon very clearly underperforming, I can't really see a reality where Sony is going to do something as drastic as pull the plug on this game, or announce that it's going to go free to play and try to appease the people who bought into it at $40 day one. I don't see PlayStation doing something like that. The thing that I really see PlayStation doing with the earnings call is more just saying things such as, we're committed to the long term, or the sales have been softer. And that's kind of going to be the big headline from that presentation. Now, I think that the most realistic thing that could possibly happen that will be of notable consequence are layoffs. I'm getting a little bit of ahead of myself in this respect, because I have a whole Google document of notes that I've written, and it's like almost 2 pages long. And I have at the bottom, and I'll read to you what I wrote, is that I wrote at the bottom, layoffs are definitely going to happen at some point if this game keeps going the way it's going. And I still think the rumored leadership exodus is going to happen during the summer, as it was reported in IGN's story about Joe Ziegler taking over as Marathon's director. So, for people who aren't aware or don't remember, there was part of the reporting that came out about the switch in director when Chris Barrett was fired after his, misconduct allegations, and then Joe Ziegler came in. There was a nugget in that IGN story from Rebecca Ballantyne that talked about how the final retention bonus payouts for the leadership at Bungie are going to be this summer. And there is this running expectation within Bungie and within the wider gaming sphere that once the final retention checks have been given out, that there's just going to be all these leaders are just going to peace out of Bungie. Like the big people, like Tyson Green's going to go, who's currently the big director of Destiny 2, and he's fucking running that into the ground to the point where it's on life support right now. What's his face? Jason Jones will probably go away. You have the guy who's probably the CEO right now, might or not the CEO. What do they call him? The studio head, because it's no longer an independent company within PlayStation. So hey Nero, how's it going? Finished the second Paranormal Sight game. I still haven't gotten around to that. So just like I need to get around to that. I really do. I've been dragging my heels on getting into that so far. But let's start at the top, because I'll have more to say about this whole like Bungie thing. So I have all these notes in this section that goes over the sales and stuff like that. But the first thing I want to do is just, I feel like this image kind of just speaks to what I want to go from here. I mean, like, okay, let's be fair. Let's refresh. Okay, it's almost at 14,000. Okay. So, and like Red Rider said, it's done okay for a game in this genre. Unfortunately, okay really isn't great for Bungie right now. I don't even know. I think I would say it's okay if this were a much more cheaply made extraction shooter and this was not Bungie. And this is kind of repeating what I said when I talked about the server slam that happened the week before this came out, and how I looked at the data from that and I said, this is acceptable from any other standards except Bungie's. And this, I feel like, I don't know, even with, because you look at the pattern that this has gone down with, where even any other company who came out of the gate like this, and then it just fell big time. Whoops. Like that. Because, I mean, there's no growth here. I mean, there's no growth. And it is right now. I mean, what's amazing about this number right now is that this is while it's on sale and the Cryo Archive is currently open. And it's still not even right now breaking past 15K. And again, I've seen some people try to hand wave this away, going, well, it's not the peak hours. And it's like, okay, it's not the peak hours in the United States, but it's the peak hours somewhere in the world. It's the peak hours in like the UK right now. And the PC is the primary platform for Marathon, as it's been confirmed from multiple reports. 70% of the player base is on PC. And these are the numbers that it's drawing in from a worldwide perspective. I mean, shit. You look at, I mean, I said this too with the Server Slam. This game just, no one in Asia or Australia or any on like that side of the world, nobody cares. Like in any in any new number that matters, nobody gives a shit. This is such a Western American focused, West Coast focused American game. And it's like it just is not there. Even by United States standards, for it to not even go above like for it to not even go above 30K for this entire week that the new balance patch has been out, Cryo has been open multiple times, and it's currently on sale for 20% off. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I do know what they need to do at this point, but I don't think some fans of this game are going to like it. I don't think some fans of the game are going to like this. So let me start with talking about the sales and the player count. Or sorry, not the player count, but like the reviews. So let's see. Fuck your streaming. I'm at work on lunch in the break room. Ah, damn. Well, you can watch this later, Richard. I'll have this up on the channel after it's done. I've been hearing surprisingly good things about Pragmata. Yeah, I really want to get Pragmata. It looks really cool. I liked the demo that came out for it. I thought that was surprisingly, it felt surprisingly fluid, like you said. So I was curious to play the full game. I don't know about $60 playing the full game, but I'll definitely get it when it's on sale because it looks like fun. It looks like the kind of game that I'd be into. But when Marathon came out, the people that really clicked with Marathon, the people that have stuck around with it, have said very positive things about it. So there, like I said, there is a very small niche audience for this game. And the niche audience that has really latched onto Marathon have really latched onto it. I mean, during the week it came out, there was one podcast I was listening to where one of the hosts who was really into it was just praising it, just gushing about it for an hour, and not in this like, not in this head in the sand delusional kind of way where they're thinking that this game is like the most revolutionary thing ever, but he was very passionate and very excited about the game, and he said he absolutely loved it, and he provided compelling reasons why it really clicked for him for over an hour. And that to me was charming. And I will not lie to you guys, in the moment it made me consider like, well, maybe I should give this game a chance at some, maybe, just because when I hear somebody be very passionate about something, even if I have no idea like what they're talking about or what's going on, or if I'm not even in the realm of it, it's infectious, and it makes me want to be passionate for the thing that they are passionate about. And this person was very deeply passionate about Marathon, and just for that person's sake, I personally really just do not want this game to die, because I would feel that would suck for that one person that was like gushing about it. And again, in a very like reasonable, but in a very reasonable, level-headed kind of way. So the people that really like Marathon really like it. And of course, you look at OpenCritic, it's got like an 81, which is pretty good. Player rating on this site, a 90, which is really good. It's just, then you get into the things like the actual data. And I very rarely use this firm when it comes to data, because they have not really been all that trustworthy with some of the stuff, but it has been corroborated by multiple people that this site's estimates, or this company's estimates, are actually pretty close to the truth. So as of the time of this coming out, which was March 24th, in the first month, Marathon had sold about 1.2 million copies across Steam, PS5, and Xbox. with a gross revenue via copies about $55 million. 380K average daily active users over the last weekend since this article came out. And like I said, the majority of players are on PC. 80 at the time of this, 80,000 players compared to the massive drop right here in between the two, where you've got 217K and 133K on Xbox, which that Xbox stat is, you talk about the PlayStation 1 being bad, that Xbox One is terrible. So this was, I would say, and it's been interesting to watch kind of the public sentiment kind of change on contextualizing whether or not this was a success. And I said, I mean, I told myself, like, when this number came out, I said to myself, damn, that's really soft for something like this. And it's kind of embarrassing for PlayStation and Bungie that that the disparity between PC players and PS5 players is this big. That's embarrassing for a primarily for a studio that is owned by PlayStation. And I can't even imagine what it is now. Because, I mean, you go back to the Steam player charts and you look at some of the third-party estimates that are around here. And I feel like this middle one here, this was kind of the most accurate at the time when that stat came out about the approximately 800K copies sold on PC. I mean, if we're going by these estimates, it's like barely broken 1 mil. And even then, like at the very most, it hasn't even reached 1.5 million on PC. Which, like, I don't know how many times I can tell you guys, like, that's not a good thing. That's really, really not a good thing. And you look at the number that it is now, for the amount of like the fluctuating player base that it's gotten over the last few weeks, it's just bleeding. I mean, there's no denying it that there is a massive player bleed for this game. Marathon is, unfortunately, I think, caught in the death spiral. And I don't know if Bungie... I know what Bungie might be able to do to get out of this, but I don't know if they're actually going to do it, and I don't know if they're going to implement it in time, and I don't know if they actually implement it, if any number of players of consequence are actually going to come back, or new players are going to buy into it enough to stop the bleeding that's happening. Because you look at this is terrible. I don't even think this is okay. I think there should be like red alert happening right now at Sony and Bungie. I mean, granted, it's not a Concord situation. It's not a Highguard situation, because they got, the enough people to give like $40 out of the gate to the point where they cannot shut this down. I know there are some people that have said that they don't expect this game to last another, like, after season 2, but I don't think it's that dire. I assuming you're making it free to play. I'm not saying that. It's funny you say that, Red Rider, but I actually have a whole because I was reading Paul Tassi's article about why he believes that it will not go free to play, and I agree with him, because I don't think this going free to play would actually save it either, because that doesn't change the fundamental problem at the heart of Marathon, where and I'll get into it. I'll get into it later, and then let me go back to the main visual for a little bit. There we go. So I can go to my notes. So let's let's say Marathon had about I was about to say, because I don't think it's ever worked for a game. I think it kind of worked for Destiny 2, but Destiny 2 had for years had $40 expansions that they could go on. And the problem with free to play 2 is that they're going to have to dramatically change the monetization strategy of Marathon. And I don't know if that's going to go well for Bungie, especially after the reputation that they have with the Eververse store in Destiny 2, with how exploitative and greedy that is. I can't even imagine the money grubbing they're going to have to do with Marathon if they decide to make it free to play. So I don't think going free to play is the solution. But I'll talk about the solution in a little while. So what has been reported, and this is I'm genuinely surprised that people were surprised by this, that Marathon had an alleged budget of at least $200 to $250 million. But that does not include maintenance or future content. I am very surprised that people were surprised by that number. Because I had heard from people both in the games industry and just normie people online, they were thinking this game had costed, cheaper, that it was going to be $150 million or something like that. And I just thought to myself, brother, this is Bungie developing a big live service game in Bellevue, Washington, where the cost of living, the average cost of living, let me actually look this up for y'all. Average cost of living in Bellevue, Washington. So, median home prices often exceed between $1.3 to $1.6 million. Typically requires a comfortable lifestyle, typically requires a combined income of $150,000 to $200,000 plus dollars annually. So that's a comfortable income to rent. That's not even a home. So it is very expensive to live and work, to operate out of Bellevue, Washington. People that were saying this either had their heads in the sand, that it was going to be cheaper than $200 to $250 million, either have their heads in the sand, or they do not live in the United States. Because I remember when Concord was coming out, and I saw one comment from somebody saying that there is no way that this game costs $200 million to make. And I'm like, that person does not live in the United States. And sure enough, I looked at the profile of that person, lived in the United Kingdom. It's like, okay, you don't understand. This is Bungie, baby. They don't know the word cheap. No, and this is the thing. Bungie are notorious for the amount of money that they burn. Their burn rate is huge. This was the reason why Xbox looked at them as a potential acquisition target and passed. And when Xbox passes up on you as an acquisition target, something is not right with your company. So, $200 to $250 million budget at least. And again, that does not include maintenance. That does not include future content. That is not going to include salaries from this point on for the employees. This is a very expensive game to maintain. So when people come at me and go, 1.2 million copies in less than 3 weeks, that's amazing for this game. No. No. So even now, and let's be generous. Let's be generous and say that Marathon has sold 3 million copies at this point. Let's be very generous and say that it's sold 3 million copies at this point. I have very serious doubts that it's that number. You really are going to tell me, you're going to look at the Steam DB charts and you're going to tell me that this game, like, again, let me switch back. You really are going to tell me that 3 million people have bought this game? Looking at this, like, I'm sorry, like, I hate to keep, actually, no, I'm not going to apologize for that. I love looking at SteamDB. I find this information fascinating. And I know there are some people who hate it when SteamDB is brought up. But let me say this again for the people in the back. SteamDB is a very valuable resource in an era where lots of these companies, especially these console platform holders, love to play cloak and dagger with their numbers. They love to obfuscate and hide stuff. I love it, even if it's a third-party app. I love it when there is publicly available data at all times. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I will never apologize for going to SteamDB because I find it to be very helpful. So, right now, 14,455 players. Okay, what was this number last week? At this time, about 12:30? What time is it? Almost 12:30 my time. 18,304 players. And this, it's like almost 4,000 less players compared to last week at this time. And that might not seem like a big deal at first to some people, but this has been happening every single week since this game came out. Again, look at this. Look. It adds up over time. 4,000 one week, 3,000 another week, 3,000 another week, 5,000 another week. And here we are. It's added up to where now it hasn't hit half of its concurrent player count since end of March. It's been almost a month. And it's bled that much in terms of its player base. And you know what? Speaking of which, let me see. Hold on. Let me take a look where it is on the PlayStation Store. Let me take a look, because I think the last time I looked, it was... And it's also on sale, too. So, let me see if it's actually bumped up a little bit. Pragmata being in the top 5, that's pretty damn good. Mouse PI for hire. Damn, GBZ. Damn. Oh, because they announced the new character. That's right. Okay. So, last time I looked at Marathon, it was about like a couple weeks ago. It was like in the top... I think it was in the third tab in this. So, let's see if it's gone up. Nope. Hasn't gone up because of the sale, but it's probably in the third one somewhere. Wait a minute. Oh, it's not even... Shit. It's not even in the third tab anymore. Okay, it's probably in the fourth one. Let's see. No way. Wait a minute. What the fuck? wait. Astrobot is here? An Expedition 33 at full price? Wait a minute. No way. No way. I had to have missed Marathon. There's no way. There's no fucking way. I had to have missed it. Hold on. Sorry. Hold on. Sorry. Please shout out if you see Marathon. I feel like I'm like tripping right now. What the fuck? Wow. That's okay. And it's on sale for 20% off. It's been like that for like 2 days now. And it's not even like... Astrobot is above it. Expedition 33 is above it. Fucking Call of Duty original from 2019 is above it. Oh man, that's dude, that is wow. That's even worse than I thought. And it's on sale. I can't believe. Wait, is there any way I can do Xboxes as well? Xbox Store. Hold on. Can I organize this by... Hold on. Hold on. Okay, let me see. Or how is this sorted by most popular? Let's take a look at that. Okay. Most popular. Okay. No thanks. I don't want to chat. unless Xbox chat wants to talk about um uh a sale like this could flag to people that it's dying, just a theory. I mean, that's true, but there have been I think Arc Raiders was on sale for like 10% off around the same time, but not 20% off to be fair. To your theory, but I think it's a valid theory. What the fuck? How far am I gonna have to go to find Marathon on the Xbox? This is the Xbox store, isn't it? Yeah, for Xbox Series X and S. Okay, yeah, there's Destiny. There's Call of Duty Black Ops 1. Backwards compatible. How far am I gonna have to go down to find Marathon? Hold on, did I miss it? No way. No way. Hold on. Fucking Resident Evil 4 remake is higher. Where is Marathon? And this is by popularity right now. I wonder if that's by... I'm not gonna keep... But you get my point. But let me see if it's by relevance. Let's do by relevance. Let's see. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's go by relevance. Play with Xbox Series X. Let's filter it a little bit. Okay. So, damn, mouse PI for hire. That's pretty good. Being up there that high. I don't think it's even on Game Pass. That's pretty good. Oh, Hades 2. Cool. That's there. I apologize to everybody that's like watching this like, oh come on, get on with this. But like I'm just shocked that it's like it's almost like Marathon doesn't even exist on this chart on Xbox. Like I know the player base is like lower, as like way lower on Xbox, but it's like damn. There's just like nothing. Like wow. I mean it's okay, yeah. Wow. Thank you for indulging me in that little experiment. That's wild to me. And I think, you know what? I think it shows because so one thing that to me has been like a deafening silence is their silence on how many copies have sold of this game. Like Sony and Bungie's silence on copies sold, player stats, like such as this person, this is the most popular shell or runner by now, or there have been this percentage of successful extractions. There have been this many people that have beaten the compiler. I mean, it speaks volumes to me. The silence is deafening that they have not talked about copies sold or player stats in the almost 2 months that this game has come out. Compare that to Capcom. I mean, I think it was just like last week or early this week, they already said that they were hyping it up that Pragmata had sold 1 million copies in less than a week after launch. That is something to be very proud of. You have Slay the Spire talking about how many copies they had sold when it came out in early access, or Slay the Spire 2 specifically. You have Astrobot going back to PlayStation. They bragged to investors that Astrobot had sold 1.5 million copies in less than 2 months on a single console. When a company says something, you know they are proud of it. When they're silent, especially silent for this long, and you just look at the SteamDB numbers, you look at the chart patterns, you look at the player number bleed, you look at where it is on the PlayStation Store, and the that pirate game Windrose, I think, did it. Oh yeah, they did it. Windrose has been like a big hit for that studio. These companies and these studios will preach from the mountaintop when they have a stat that is worth hyping up. But when they don't, they are silent as the grave. Or they will try to manipulate it. Like what EA did, where they were like, we have this many unique engaged players for Dragon Quest or Dragon Age. I'm sorry, Dragon Quest, dragging that in. Dragon Age the Veilguard had this many unique players, or whatever bullshit they did before they realized, like, they had to admit, oh shit, that game flopped. So another thing too that I don't see being brought up a lot with Marathon, or at least maybe it's being brought up more now that the player base has been dying out, there is just no major worldwide appeal to this game. And I said as much when the server slam happened, because you look at the charts when it's peak hours for China or Australia or South Korea or Japan or Europe or Eastern Europe or the Middle East or something like that. It's like nothing. Not like barely a blip. Like China, I know there was the big thing when China, they had that playtest in China, and there was like a subset of the Marathon sycophants that were going on about, yo, this could be a huge hit in China. There's a huge amount of people that really want to play Marathon in China. And then you look at the server slam numbers, and that clearly did not translate to reality. So it's like, yeah, I don't think that worked. Like, sorry. Because, you compare it again to, I'm going to bring up Slay the Spire 2 again. Slay the Spire 2. Massive hit in China. Massive. Crimson Desert. Big in both Europe and the US. Same with Windrose. Pragmata being a big hit in Japan. Marathon? It's a very West Coast American focus game. And even then, not enough people on the West Coast are coming out for this game. It's not enough. Not even close to being enough to keep this sustainable. So, let's talk about what could happen with the future. And we've already seen post-launch support for this game. We've seen duos being... I don't know why duos wasn't there at launch, but they're experimenting with it so they can make it more of a permanent thing in Season 2. I don't know why that wasn't... I don't know why that wasn't there. Wasn't there? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know why that wasn't there to begin with. It's like my brain is melting trying to process how badly this game is doing. But you had Cryo Archive that opened, which, that to me, Cryo Archive is kind of like, it represents the big problem at the heart of Marathon, is that I think the conundrum that Bungie had going into Marathon once the delay came about was, because of the pressure from Arc Raiders, I feel like they had to pick a lane. And it felt like the original alpha of the game was trying to appeal to both crowds, the casual and the hardcore. And it's like they picked the lane of the hardcore. And to me, in order to make the game stand out from the crowd, I feel like that was the smart move, but long term, it was a bad call. Because you look at something like Cryo Archive, which is so exceptionally brutal, even with some of the nerfs and patches that have come in to alleviate some of the meta strategies that have been going in, like shotguns and thermal scope rifles and stacking claymores on top of drones and sending them over to a player to like blow up the entire party, stuff like that. That's been toned down. But even then, it's like, it's just not fun enough. It's not accessible enough for a healthy player pool. They also added in ranked mode, which I don't know why. I don't understand ranked mode in this game. I don't get it, especially when ranked mode kind of relies on you bringing in your own gear rather than it being a set of weapons that they give you to begin with that determines the skill rather than the weapons, because you could be bringing in the ridiculous OP endgame gun, I forget what it's called. It's the one that you get when you beat the compiler at the end of Cryo Archive. So you could bring that in possibly to ranked and just wipe out a bunch of people and rank up in that way. You had battle pass changes where the cosmetics were so shitty that they had to apologize and go, damn, fuck, well, we'll add more later. We'll do better, don't worry. You had the microtransaction shenanigans where they tried to gouge the players out of more money in order to and give them less currency. So they got called out on that, and they had to make changes to that, which I don't give them a pass on that at all because Bungie knew damn well what they were doing during doing that. I don't believe that for a moment that was a mistake. That was just a moment of seeing what they could get away with, and thankfully they didn't get away with that. They had to change it, but the fact that it happened to begin with it's just typical Bungie bullshit. And then they added in this thing called the carry system, where you could get stuff and rewards if you help players out. There's the mid-season balance patch, which nerfed the thermal scopes. It made it where it's harder to snipe people from far away. It took away the ability to stack multiple claymores on the drone that you could send out and attack players with it and have blow up a whole team. They added this weird semi-battle royale experimental playtest in the Dire Marsh map, which apparently has gone over well with the community that's remaining. But I don't know. I don't know what does that tell you when a mode that more is structured around battle royale than the extraction shooter genre is kind of the thing that's getting players excited. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow for Bungie in the feedback department on that one. And then with Season 2, they're going to be doing things like they're going to have a new shell. I imagine they're probably going to add in new AI enemies to the maps. They are going to have a new map, which is just a nighttime version of Dire Marsh. I don't know. Dire Marsh, I've heard, is one of the shittier maps in the game, so I don't know how well that's going to go over for them. That's kind of like okay, sure, whatever. It's like, sure, there's a night version of Dire Marsh, a map that we don't really care for. Cool. Oh. Let's talk about retention and monetization, which this is so like, as somebody who studies psychology, one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is the difference in curated player psychology between games such as Arc Raiders versus Marathon, where you have Arc Raiders on one hand that from the very beginning had a good finger on the pulse as far as what is going to be acceptable in terms of reality, as far as a player going into the game and doing the things that the developers actually want them to do. As an example, Arc Raiders is a very much, I don't know about very, it's a much friendlier game compared to Marathon. Where Marathon is very hardcore, it's very brutal, it's very shoot on sight, PvP focused. Arc Raiders has more of a PvE flavor to it, and there's just something about Arc Raiders where they have gotten they've trained their player base in a way that even I can't fully articulate in order to understand that this is a game where working together and being friendly to one another is more beneficial than fighting each other. This Arc Raiders is a case where the intended player psychology from Embark matches up pretty well with what reality is going to be. And then you have a game like, and it works for Arc Raiders, where it's successful. This kind of approach and player psychology appeals to a wide variety of people. It appeals to sweats who just want to be in their own lobby and shooting each other, which they make room for that. You have people that just want to go to PvE, and they have that. You want to team up with a bunch of people, they have that. There's an inherent understanding within Arc Raiders that being helpful and not shooting on sight is beneficial, is more kind of the flow and the atmosphere of Arc Raiders. Then you have a game like Marathon, where it is way more harsh, way more kill on sight, way more sweaty, way more focused on ambushing people, wiping the lobbies, taking people's loot, just destroying people, decimating people, because Bungie sought the feedback for a long time from Destiny 2 players and streamers and people who played Tarkov, as an example, as well. I don't think Bungie did a good enough job aligning what they thought the players were going to be doing versus the reality of it. Where it's almost like Bungie play tested Marathon in this streamer bubble, where they were told over and over again, yes, make it more hardcore, make it more sweaty. This is exactly what I've been looking for. I want this high from this super high risk reward kind of approach. And then when they brought it out into the world, that intended psychology did not translate to what actually happened, because Bungie's player base is known more for embracing PvE after years of Destiny. So it's absolutely an uphill battle to convert a bunch of players that are used to PvE content from you, and then turning around and going, here's our next big game. It's this hardcore, sweaty-ass PvP VE extraction shooter, where you could possibly get clipped 5 minutes into a match and lose all your gear, your really cool gear that you bring into it. So, the other thing, too, with Marathon that I think is still a big question mark as well, is this concept of mandatory wipes at the end of each season. And let me take a sip of water before I talk about that. Excuse me. So, if Bungie sticks with this, which I have some doubts that they're going to make wipes mandatory at the end of this season, because I personally don't see much of an interest in coming back to this game from a lot of people to do the same thing all over again, where all of the faction progress is reset, where all of your weapons are gone, back to square one, I mean, sure, you keep your codex stuff, you keep your titles, you keep your cosmetics, like that's a given, but I think one of the things that Bungie is going to have to do is scrap this concept of mandatory wipes. And I think they're just going to take from Arc Raiders, where they're going to make it optional. And if you do end up doing it, then you get cool rewards, or you get access to a new skill tree or something like that. They're going to have to figure out a way to do that, because I just don't see it where the player base is going to be there if you then all of a sudden wipe their inventory and their progress with the factions. But the problem that Bungie has created for themselves is that they want, I believe their stated intent was that they want the end of the season, the beginning of a new one. That's kind of their solution to the long-term problem that they've had with Destiny when it comes to onboarding. I believe that is the solution to their problem, where instead of players getting left behind over and over and over and over again, like what happens with Destiny year after year, where it's almost impossible to start like anew at this point because of how overly complicated and how expensive it is to get all the content, and how some of the content doesn't even exist anymore because of either the vaulting or other shit. This is supposed to be their solution to that, where they're just going to wipe progress from everybody and have it be a new entry point for new players. But the question I want to ask is, or not the question I want to ask, because even Bungie doesn't know the answer to that. What remains up in the air is whether or not the hardcore people, like Red Rider Robot said, question, will hardcore stick around if they make the change you suggested? I think they would. I'm gonna say that I think, because I don't think Bungie has a choice at this point. I don't think Bungie has a choice. Like I think Bungie is going to have to figure out how to do some kind of split between players who want to reset their progress, but you give them some incentives, and then players who continue keep their progress. Because the thing with the sale too, what's interesting, and somebody on the Reddit pointed this out, is that it doesn't really make much sense to get the game right now, because you only have about maybe a month and a half of catching up to the point where people have been playing since March 5th or whenever the game came out. So it doesn't really make much sense to get the game now while it's on sale. Or at least buy it now and start playing it now. You'd be better off waiting until Season 2. And even then, by that point, which when Season 2 is when June, I think it's June is when it's going to come out. Dude, there are going to be so many games that have come out between now and then. I mean, not only, again, you're competing for attention, you're competing for money, and you're competing for time. And especially if other live services come out between now and then that are popular, like Windrose. Windrose wasn't even on my radar, but here it is, and it's successful. There could be other things that drop between now and mid-June or whenever the hell Season 2 comes out, and it just completely takes away the attention from Marathon. Because right now, Marathon already has this reputation as this hardcore, sweaty-ass game. And what they're going to now have to do is, and they've already kind of started this with the semi-battle royale mode that they're playtesting and making some nerfs and introducing that carry system to help people out, make the game a little more friendly. But they have a very difficult task ahead of them of balancing preventing players from leaving and attracting new players while simultaneously trying to appease both casual and hardcore players. I think they are just going to have to go more and more casual with this game to have even a chance at it. So, And I think what's so incredible to me is that the idea that some people have this delusion that this is what Bungie and PlayStation want. They want Marathon to be this hardcore, very niche, sweaty ass game that only makes a limited amount of money and keeps a very lean player base. Let me remind you guys. Sony did not spend hundreds of millions of dollars on this game and billions on Bungie to make niche products. Sorry, that is not even close to being within the realm of what really is going on here. That is a fairy tale that PlayStation is interested in this niche game that's fluctuating between like at best 15 to 20k players. Oh, granted, maybe 25k players. Because in order to support a game like this and a studio like Bungie, all of these players, they better be ponying up on the microtransactions to keep this game afloat. Because their $40 purchases don't mean shit in the long run. Especially if, and I've seen this too throughout the months since this game came out. There is not an not insignificant number of people who I have seen say almost word for word, I've gotten my $40 worth out of Season 1, and I'm ready to move on to something else. And I won't be back for Season 2. If enough people don't come back for Season 2, brother, that's... No. That's... Doesn't matter how many... It doesn't matter if it sold like 2 million, 3 million copies at $40 a pop. That's... If people aren't going to come back and spend money on the shitty microtransactions, might as well just wrap it up right there. Which I don't think is going to happen, but I'll get to more of that in a bit. But one of the things that I find amusing too, and this is something that one of the hosts of Sacred Symbols, a podcast I like, Dustin, he made this really good point a few weeks ago that it seems like Marathon almost isn't designed with recurrent spending in mind due to how hardcore it is, and given how weak the Battle Pass is, and the shitty, just from an artistic standpoint, the really shitty skins in the cosmetic shop. And that, for a publisher that went as gung-ho on live services as PlayStation did, it seems to me that every game they've released has kind of been like that. That's made it out the door in this live service era, not including, like the mainstays like Gran Turismo and MLB The Show. I'm talking about things like Helldivers 2, which even then, that's a miracle how much that makes from microtransactions, considering how easy it is to get the super credits in that game. Look at Concord, fucking garbage skins, Fair Games, who the fuck? Even with that being allegedly free to play now, who the fuck is gonna buy skins for that shit? Horizon Hunters Gathering, it's like, you have these characters that just, for loop, So, I get what he meant by that point, and the thing that I foresee with Marathon as well is that it's going to suffer an identity crisis because of this. So if the player base keeps slowly bleeding, Sony and Bungie are going to be forced to dilute how hardcore Marathon is and make it way more approachable for a wider and more casual audience. And you're already seeing this, like I said, with the mid-season balance patch. You're seeing this with the Dire Marsh semi-battle royale experimental thing, whatever the fuck it's called. You're already seeing these compromises being implemented. And to their credit, it's been getting... from the people that have stuck around, people do seem to like these changes. It's good. It's a good start. But that has not translated to players. And that's the thing that matters the most. It's players. Because if you don't have the fucking players around, you don't have a game. It's really that simple. You people can praise on Reddit all day and night how wonderful this game is and how it's like I'm having a fucking blast playing this game and the haters are wrong and stuff like that. But you look at the numbers and the raw numbers, and it's just not, the math ain't mathin'. It doesn't work. Like I'm no accountant, but the numbers don't work for something like this. And the next thing that I want to talk about is, this is one of the main reason that I have been, besides my own curiosity and this whole thing, is the relationship between Bungie and PlayStation, where I would make the argument that Marathon is the single most important game in Sony's live service initiative and catalog. And I don't mean in terms of success or how much money it's bringing in or how beloved it is. That's not what I mean, because in both of those camps, I think Helldivers 2 is easily the best. It's like the only success they've had. I mean in terms of proving to PlayStation that having Bungie under their umbrella was worth all this hassle. This was their moment to prove themselves. Because Bungie was acquired partly to shepherd Sony's, or Jim Ryan's, gung-ho live service initiative and teach PlayStation how to do it. There has been, ever since this generation began, there has been this big emphasis within PlayStation on Bungie talent. They seem to think that Bungie are like the golden geese when it comes to delivering live services. They are the apple tree that is going to drop golden apples like candy out of a piñata or something. This is like the image I have in my head. It's like PlayStation cleared out a big part of their garden that they had, bought this tree for almost $4 billion with the hope, because it was always a hope, it was never a guarantee, with the hope that this big tree that was going to be brought into their garden was then going to deliver golden apples to them on a regular basis. And that did not happen at all. When the tree started to bear fruit, it was rotted and some of the branches died and snapped off, and they had to cut down parts of the tree, and now you're left with one branch that maybe could have some golden apples drop from it. And that would be Marathon. And I can guarantee you, not one golden apple in my metaphor has been dropped from this tree. Not one. So PlayStation spent $4 billion on a bunch of canceled live services, multiple dead projects from Bungie, lots of layoffs, an art theft scandal, controversies, and a game that would at best be described as popular in a hardcore crowd, but very, very limited financially. That's what Bungie gave PlayStation for almost $4 billion. And like, what does this say about Bungie's alleged near $4 billion expertise? And I'm putting that in quotes. That they are already facing huge player retention problems from their first major game since Destiny 2. What does that say about this alleged talent at Bungie? That they can't even sidestep a simple microtransaction controversy. That they didn't think about the battle pass being dog shit for their game. These are rookie mistakes. And yet they're being done by a live service company that is allegedly this juggernaut in this space, where their expertise is worth almost $4 billion. What does that say? I mean, granted, it says a lot about PlayStation 2, where they're just stupid. I mean, this is, you know, in one respect, I almost have to admire the hustle, the grift that Bungie got on PlayStation, like the hoodwink that they got on PlayStation. Because whatever the lawyers told PlayStation, whatever the leaders at Bungie told PlayStation, man, those are some silver-tongued motherfuckers at Bungie. Either they are the most silver-tongued motherfuckers at Bungie, or PlayStation at the time was so unbelievably stupid that they thought to themselves, wow, this is a great deal. We are getting a steal out of this. Do you remember that shit? When Jim Ryan said with a straight face that they are getting more out of Bungie with $4 billion in Activision than Xbox gets out of Activision for $80 billion. Like, look, Activision hasn't been a good thing for Xbox, in my opinion, but from an objective perspective, that is a very silly thing for Jim Ryan to say. Because what have they gotten out of Bungie? Very little. After all these years. And what I wonder is how long... The relationship must be strained at this point. It has to be. It has to be strained at this point. PlayStation has to be fucking... If they're not sick of Bungie by now, or they don't have major buyer's remorse right now, then I don't know what's going on at PlayStation. I'm not going to get into like PlayStation again, because I've done this for several hours with PlayStation by itself, but I mean, like I said in the beginning, I definitely think layoffs are going to happen. Let me read Red Robot. It's easy to say, quote, me and my friends love it, must be popular, unquote, without thinking about other players. Well, it's like the people who say, you know, it's an off time for the game. That's why it's only at 5,000 players right now. It's 3 a.m. in the morning here. It's like they don't think about there are other places in the world where they could be getting an audience, but they aren't. Like China, like Europe, like South Korea, like the Middle East, like Australia. If this does poorly, Bungie will be gutted. Yeah. They'll keep the name for this, but the studio is fucked. Yeah. I mean, I don't think, and this is getting into like the final portion of this live stream where I'll talk about gaming out the possible futures for Marathon and Bungie. One sentiment I've seen that I think is not going to happen, I think is nonsense, is this idea of Sony shutting Marathon down in a few months and closing Bungie. That is not going to happen. I think what they're going to do is, like you said, I think they're going to lay off a bunch of people at Bungie. I think there's going to be a mass exodus in the summertime once the final retention bonuses come in, because I can't imagine who would willingly stick around to shepherd this thing instead of just taking their final paycheck of like millions of dollars and just going, well, see ya, and just pissing off into into that good night. Jason Jones can go on sabbatical permanently. Who would want to work on this game? I don't, unless somebody at Bungie is clearly passionate about this game and is driven to see this thing through till the end. Beyond those people, I don't know who would want to stick around at Bungie. Because it's not just Marathon that's a problem right now. It's Destiny 2. Because Destiny 2 right now is on life support. And that's not going to get its next update, not even expansion, it's update, until June. So right now they're juggling 2 dying live services. Who would want to work in an environment like that? I don't get it. I don't. You know, again, for this alleged $4 billion worth of expertise, I mean, really, all they've got are just a studio that's juggling 2 dead live services. Or not dead, or dying live services. Now, here's where I think I think what's going to happen, and this is the thing that I've been alluding to this whole stream, I think beyond them appealing way more to a bunch of casual players, I think they are going to start working on a dedicated PvE mode. I don't think they're going to do something like a traditional solo campaign or a co-op campaign or anything like that, because I don't think Bungie has the resources to do something like that right now. But I definitely think a dedicated PvE mode is in the cards, and they're going to have to come up with more enemy types. They're going to have to come up with more. They're going to have to rebalance certain things on the map and rebalance enemy placement. It's not that simple. There's people that think it's as simple as flipping a switch and you can turn the game into PvP or PvE from PvE to PvE. It's not that simple. They're going to have to think about enemy placement. They're going to have to think about spawn points. You're going to have to come up with new enemy types. They're going to have to think about weapon balancing. They're going to have to think about gear balancing. So something like Road to Vostok. Possibly. I'm thinking more like a patrol zone in Destiny, where maybe they will have other players in that environment, but you can't hit them, you can't shoot them. There's no friendly fire. And then you run around together and do activities and make it more like a Elden Ring Night Rain of sorts, where you're in this isolated area or the map in Marathon, and there's like a time limit that you have to do, and then there's maybe stuff you get that makes you better, and then you go off and fight a boss at the end or something like that. Because unless they want to make it where they're gonna have to make new enemy types, and they're gonna have to rebalance. It's not easy to do this. It's not easy to suggest this, but I feel like they don't have any choice. I don't think they have any choice. I think they are going to have to switch to PvE. And I've heard some arguments against adding PvE, which I do think are valid, such as them splitting the player pool even more than it already is, with the addition of like trios and experimental queues and cryo archive and weekends and ranked mode, and now you're going to be adding in a night version of Dire Marsh in season 2, and it's already going to split the player base a bunch. And if the player base is not that high to begin with, then you're going to be facing more waiting time. You're going to be facing the same players over and over and over again. If they don't implement some kind of, I don't know, like skill-based matchmaking or something like that, where they have to filter out the sweats from teaming up with the casuals, then because it's just gonna fuck up the casuals and stuff like that. I mean, it's a bad situation. It's a really bad, tough situation for Bungie. I have no sympathy for the leadership at Bungie in this case. I have no sympathy for the people who had a hand in these decisions. My sympathy at Bungie lies with the rank and file people. My sympathy lies with the people at Bungie who allegedly told leadership a long time ago that there needs to be some kind of PvE component in Marathon, and were shot down by leadership because leadership played Tarkov a bunch of times, and it's like, yeah, we know what we're doing. We're Bungie. We got this. We're the Golden Geese. We're Blizzard. We got this. Multiple live services that will be successful. Nah. Like, nah. So, but the other thing that I think is kind of if they had more employees, I think the thing that would definitely be in the cards would be Destiny 3. Because I feel like that is the game that is their break glass in case of emergency project. Because that's the thing that people want. And I can't believe that was not in the cards at some point. I can't believe they did not seriously start development on a Destiny 3 or some kind of, I know they had that Payback project where it was going to be like a third-person Destiny game in the style of Warframe. Something like that. But I'm talking about a true sequel to Destiny 2. Don't even call it Destiny 3. Call it Destiny, I don't know, New Beginning or something. I don't know. Something like that. Or 2025 or whatever the year is. It does what year does Destiny even take place? I don't know, like the year 5000 or something like that. I don't know. But they're going to have to they're if Bungie wants to survive, they're either going to have to really pull some miracles and get Destiny 2 thriving again and get a Marathon thriving. And if that doesn't work, I mean, they're going to have to start working on Destiny 3. But the problem is Destiny 3 is such a large scale project that it's basically going to have to require everybody at Bungie plus a bunch of external studios, or they're going to have to hire a bunch more people because they already had 2 rounds of layoffs, or they're going to have to do a bunch of contractors. It's grim. I mean, I can't say I'm hopeful about the future of Marathon and Destiny 2 and Bungie. And Bungie have no one to blame but themselves at this point. Because this is yet another case where Aztecross has a clip where he brings up the concept of essentially, will Bungie be a Bungie dev or a Destiny dev? Yeah, I think the interesting thing too about Marathon is that the ironic thing is that I think Marathon would have gone down a lot better if it was something like Pragmata. And I don't mean exactly like Pragmata, but I mean something such as an 8 to 10 hour linear campaign. I think that would have gone down very well with a lot of people. And it would have gone down well with me. I would have bought it. I would have been very interested to play a tight linear 10-hour campaign with this art direction and the Bungie gameplay, with challenging enemies and getting, being taunted by different corporations and AI, and having a Ben Starr voiced AI taunt me throughout the game, and fighting the compiler as a final boss at the end or something like that. Like something like that. Because I hear so many bad arguments from people when they talk about, damn, Bungie should have just made a single player game. And then I hear some people counter that with, well, live service is more profitable. Is it? Is it more profitable? The idea of a successful live service is more profitable, but it's also a much bigger risk, and it's also a much bigger fall if it's not successful. It's ironic because I think doing an 8 to 10 hour campaign set in the Marathon universe would have been a safer bet than this. But Bungie just keeps doing this to themselves, where they just keep stepping in on those scorching hot coals and hoping that they can walk to the other end of the coal pit without burning alive in there. And then their backs are always, that's like, I don't get it. Like, their backs are always, it feels like every time Bungie does something, it feels like they put themselves in a situation where their backs are always against the wall. Final Shape, their back is against the wall. Marathon, their back is against the wall. Here we are again. Marathon dying out. Destiny 2 dying out. Backs against the wall. And again, like, really? This is the $4 billion expertise you want? Shit, man. You would have been better off paying a little bit more to buy the developers of Warframe. You would have been better off just, I don't know, like, investing in, like, I don't know, 10 small studios that make smaller live services. Not buying fucking, I'm getting a little sidetracked. Not buying fucking Bungie, not buying Firewalk and Haven and all this crap, and like, not spinning off. And again, like, this makes me, again, it really makes me raise my eyebrow at that Gummy Bears project that's coming from Team LFG. Um, Realizing I don't know if Marathon has a story. It has a story in that it tells it through codex entries in the original games, but it's like they could do something like, I mean, think like BioShock. They could have I think they could have done something like BioShock where the main character doesn't talk and yet they have all of these, or he doesn't talk like throughout the vast majority of the game. I know the main character talks at the very beginning of the game, but have it where you have characters just talking to you and then you get fielded through like linear set pieces. I don't know. I just imagine a thing where you walk into a room and you're fighting enemies in the opening tutorial and all of a sudden your eyes are just, it's almost like your vision is glitching out because Duranthal, the main like AI villain voiced by Ben Starr, is like fucking with you, and then you have to walk up to a room and talk to him and he delivers. Because the sad thing is, I really think, in my opinion, I really like the dialogue for this game. I know that sounds strange for a live service, but I really like the writing in Marathon. I really like the different corporations that are in this game, how they're stylized and the voice acting. And then I really like Duranthal, whatever his name is, the AI that Ben Starr voices. I love that. I love that cutscene that plays. That plays as like the introduction to the Cryo Archive, where it's just Ben Starr just saying a bunch of sinister shit, and it's really creepy and it's really effective. And I just watched that and I'm like, damn, that could have been such a cool moment in a single player game with a much tighter experience that would have played out to like a much wider audience. And then maybe see what the response is for that. And then add in the PvP mode, then add in the extraction mode as like a bonus thing. Once you've kind of gauged how people are going to respond to it. I know hindsight is 2020 and all, I get that, but I look at this whole situation and I just go, damn, dude, you could have made so many smarter decisions with this game, and now here we are again with Bungie having to pull another Hail Mary again and change the fortunes of yet another game again. Because Cryo Archive, I mean, they were hyping up Cryo Archive like this was going to be the Vault of Glass moment, and where people would finally click and realize what gave Marathon its secret sauce, the special thing about Marathon that's going to keep you coming back over and over and over again. And boy, did that not happen. So now here we are again with Marathon bleeding players and Destiny 2 on life support. And we got Sony having to make some tough decisions in the future where they have their earnings call and they're going to have to go to their shareholders with their tail between their legs and talk about Marathon and talk about Bungie, because that is all. Hermen Hulst would not shut the fuck up about Marathon being bold and innovative. Bungie is bold and innovative until his like brain short circuits from saying those two words so many times. The last time they had to talk to their investors, or talk in quotes, when they did that dumb fireside chat where they had to basically apologize for how fucking atrociously Concord went. So anyway, that's all I've got for today. That's all I want to say. I'll probably come back and look at, depending on how much is said during this financial call, or this financial report, or what the decisions are going to be for Marathon. I'd like to come back and talk about it again, because I don't think it's going to get shut down. I don't think Bungie's going to get shut down. Like, if you thought Concord was something akin to the Hindenburg blowing up, PlayStation shutting down Marathon would be like in Star Wars when they blow up Alderaan with the Death Star. That's what that would be. It would be a disaster. Does Bungie have one more miracle in them? I mean, I'm not going to say that it's impossible, but the chances are very slim. Because the difference between now and 2014, when they had to pull a miracle with Destiny 1 and do their big Taken King moment, or hell, even 2017 when they released Destiny 2 and that was bleeding players, and then they had to pull a Hail Mary with the Forsaken DLC. The problem is that this is not 2014 and this is not 2017 anymore. There is a ton of competition out there. And this is why I'd say that even a company making small mistakes and doing small shitty things and small fuck ups is not a good thing in the long run. It's a terrible thing in the long run because it just snowballs into a huge problem where now you have this reputation, and Bungie has this reputation. They have this stink on them that is never going to go away. Because I'm telling you, man, like anytime I have brought up the idea of Marathon to PvP, for friends of mine who play PvP games a lot more than I do, you know what the first thing they say is, Bungie, You know, the first thing I tell people I know who play Destiny, including one of my best friends who plays Destiny too, he's like, Bungie, I'm not going near Marathon, Any casual person I talk to, it's like, Bungie. Like, sweaty? I'll just stick with Fortnite. I'll just stick with Rematch or whatever. I don't want to go near that. $40? But even then, like I said, I don't think the free-to-play is going to help. But so that was a lot of talk about Bungie and Marathon. So thank you to everybody who joined me for this live stream. I hope we learn more. I mean, this saga is just beginning, by the way. So this is, I don't know, it's going to be, the problem is that they face such a massive uphill battle that I honestly don't think that Bungie is going to be able to overcome this. And I personally don't think PlayStation has the patience to give them. It feels like, look, as much as I don't have sympathy for PlayStation, there's a mild inkling of like, if I really put myself in the position of Hermen Hulst. If I was Hermen Hulst, I wouldn't have bought Bungie to begin with, but if I'm Hermen Hulst and I'm looking at Bungie and I'm seeing that they need to be bailed out yet again, I would have serious reservations about throwing them a lifeline. Because I feel like we'd be back here again in no short amount of time. In a short amount of time. It's like in I don't know how many of you have played Expedition 33. It's like SGA. He keeps losing his rocks. No matter how many times his rocks get returned to him, he always loses them. And that's what I see Bungie as. They just keep losing their rocks. And even when a benefactor like Microsoft or Activision or investors or PlayStation give them their rocks back, they just end up throwing them away again. So I was dead wrong about because I think I predicted that this game, I think I said there was no way that this game wouldn't get under 150k concurrent players at launch because of Bungie. Boy, was I wrong about that. Didn't even hit 100k peak concurrent players. My God. So anyway, that is all I've got to say for today. I really appreciate everybody coming by and watching. Thank you, Sonic. Thank you, Nero. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Red Riot Robot. I think that's everybody. Yeah. So thank you to everybody who came by to watch. And I will catch you guys for the next stream, whenever that may be. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.